violations for drivers who aren't paying attention and are strictly just following their GPS. WCNC Charlotte's Austin Walker takes a closer look.
Yes, driving can really be a challenge for a lot of people. After 3 years in Charlotte, I can confidently say I still use my GPS. Here's me driving to Matthews from Charlotte down I-485. It tells me to get off on Weddington. By the look on my face, though, that's not possible. This is the Weddington Road interchange. NCDOT says the plan was put forth back in 2019. It was set to open at the end of 2024, but now it's 2025 and this road is still closed. So why does my GPS tell me it's open? Now, if a driver isn't familiar or they're just not paying that close of attention, this could all be dangerous. We alerted NCDOT of the issue. A spokesperson, shocked by our findings, says they are sending someone out as soon as possible to make sure the road is properly marked as closed. The department adds the Weddington Road interchange was never labeled as open and says Google Maps might have seen increased traffic in that area, making it believe the road is open. Now, we have reached out to Google Maps asking those same questions, why this road is deemed accessible, and they have not gotten back to us. For now, in Matthews, Austin Walker, WCNC Charlotte.
WCNC Weather Impact, your trusted source for winter weather and beyond. From frost and freezes to snow, get the up-to-date forecast on your schedule.
Your Weather Impact team only on WCNC Charlotte.
Stream now on WCNC Plus.
On February 2nd, we look to Punxsutawney Phil, the prognosticators of prognosticators, to predict the second half of winter. But why do we do that? Let's raise that weather IQ. The tradition roots back to old Germany. Originally, Germans used European badgers to forecast weather during the midpoint of winter. When they settled in Pennsylvania, groundhogs became the new weather prophets. Fun fact, groundhogs are also known as woodchucks or whistlepicks because of the sounds they make. Before we called it Groundhog Day, February 2nd was known as Candlemas Day. As the folklore goes, if Candlemas be fair and bright, winter will have another flight. If Candlemas bring clouds and rain, winter won't come again. Here's how it works. On a sunny day, if Phil sees his shadow, we're in for 6 more weeks of winter. The idea is that if it's a nice day on the midpoint of winter, it will only get worse for the second half. On a cloudy, snowy, or rainy day, an animal likely won't see his shadow and spring might be just around the corner, since the weather is ideally only going to get better. This strategy has not proven to be successful. Phil, no, not this Phil has not been a meteorological genius. Since 1887, he's only been right around 40% of the time, typically predicting more winter than spring. While there are hundreds of local groundhogs across the United States, Punxsutawney Phil remains the most famous despite his average. Wishing you a happy Groundhog Day, brought to us by 2 Phils, a meteorologist, Chris Mulcahy.
For young people standing at life's crossroads, the right guide can really make the difference.
No doubt. During today's impactful Youth Mentoring Summit here in Charlotte, leaders in education, law enforcement, and mental health came together for one common goal: ensuring every young person has the support they need to succeed. WCNC Charlotte's Jesse Pierre was at the summit and shares more on how the community leaders there are seeking solutions.
The summit opened with a powerful quote by Frederick Douglass: "It is easier to raise strong children than to repair broken men." During the workshops and panels, experts spoke about how a single positive relationship can change the trajectory of a young person's life and the role mentorship can play in shaping the next generation. A room filled with people who can make a difference and conversations that can transform lives.
And it's so critically important that our young people, our folks that are in the various different places of life, see themselves not as they are in some cases, but as they can be.
Thursday's impactful Youth Mentoring Summit had panels tackling everything from mental health to youth crime and efforts to help kids stay and get on the right track. Their answer: a mentor.
How many of you can say that you got here where you are today because of someone else pouring into you? I'll raise my hand.
The summit shined light on the battles young people face and how mentorship can turn obstacles into opportunities, especially for those facing mental health struggles, academic hurdles, or risky behavior.
You know, if you know better, you'll do better. And yes, this child may have offended at some point in time, but spending time to take them to get a North Carolina ID card so they can get that job with that connection that we have with the manager at a local restaurant. So if you're at work, then you're not out on the street.
Experts say mentored kids are more likely to enroll in college, volunteer in their community, and achieve career success. It was also related to lower criminal activity, showing the impact of a mentor's guidance. An investment that goes beyond a call to action.
Knowing you can change a child's tomorrow by the actions you take today.
A mentor can be a teacher, a coach, a neighbor, a positive influence. Anyone willing to invest the time and care. Jessie Pierre, WCNC Charlotte.
Every morning, your mission is to get ahead of traffic. Our mission is to save you time and get you there safe.
You can trust WCNC Charlotte to alert you to trouble spots impacting your commute. Stay on the move with WCNC Impact Traffic. WCNC Plus. Stream now.
And President Trump is not the only one tonight criticizing FEMA's response to Hurricane Helene. Avery County's manager also describing the agency's delivery efforts of temporary homes to the victims of the hurricane as unacceptable.
His words come amid growing concerns about dozens of FEMA trailers sitting unused in a parking lot an hour and a half away. FEMA officials told WCNC Charlotte's Nate Morabito the agency has housed 140 families through this program, but he learned others continue to wait.
Look beyond the armed guards and through the chain link fence.
Taxes it hard at work.
And you'll see what looks like a simple solution.
I wonder why they're sitting here and not with the family that needs it.
Almost 80 FEMA trailers shipped in from Alabama and Maryland that Aiden Lingerfeld, who works nearby, says haven't budged in months.
They came in, they've been sitting since.
He's far from the only one who shared those words. A WCNC Charlotte viewer emailed me a picture of these trailers and said they've been here since Thanksgiving. She wondered when the federal government was going to deliver them to the people of Western North Carolina. So we came up to Hickory, and during our visit, we ran into a FEMA spokesperson who told us the agency is moving trailers out of here all the time. The federal agency says it's placed 140 households in temporary units like these, has 49 trailers in Helene-impacted counties that are in the process of being installed, and has active work orders for another 18 trailers that will eventually be delivered to a combination of private and commercial sites. But it's not as seamless as the public would hope. County permitting requirements and weather delays have slowed down the process.
We got to get the victim in the home, and logistically it has been tough. The weather has not cooperated at all, but that can't be an excuse.
Philip Barrier says 10 families in Avery County need trailers, and so far, FEMA has only delivered 2.
And I hear about them being deployed every day. They're just not deployed to Avery County.
The county manager says as those families remain temporarily housed in hotels, FEMA has spent 2 weeks looking at a possible site where the agency could place several trailers. Finding the right location that's accessible continues to prove challenging. FEMA tells us it has partnered with 18 commercial parks and is working with 15 others.
Logistically, this is a very hard place to come in place a temporary shelter for water and sewer purposes and the layout of the land. We're in the mountains. We're not flat.
Barrier says he and county leaders are doing all they can on their end. They need the federal government to do more.
We cannot accept this. This has been way too slow. We have got to do better.
FEMA says not every household impacted by Helene will need a trailer in the end. Some are living with family members. Others are housed in apartments or short-term rentals. The agency has stocked up at this staging area just to be over-prepared.
A lot of people could use them up there. Hopefully they get up there to them.
But it's clear some of these trailers are needed today. Instead, they're sitting in a parking lot in Hickory. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
Multiple Charlotte organizations and tenants are coming together, seeking solutions to mass displacements and gentrification. We told you about the numbers that were put out just a few weeks ago showing the rate of displacements in Charlotte. Now, Numbers show low-cost housing accounts for only 8% of the total housing stock, which is a huge drop from the 45% we saw back in 2011. WCNC Charlotte's Anna King spoke to one of those organizations and joins us live with more details.
That's right. Leaders with those organizations say right now they're just hoping for fair treatment for those residents living in low-income housing. And they say they don't think their list of recommendations to the city council is asking for too much.
Messed up. You can obviously see like the dumpsters and stuff, and they force them out pretty fast. Like this is the fastest gentrification I've ever seen in my life.
It's a major issue dominating the Queen City.
Like most places in Charlotte, you know, they just kind of kick out a major portion of a neighborhood, and then, you know, obviously they're going to up the price, and this is either going to be like a shopping mall or like a apartment complex for some college kids or something.
Neighborhoods overcome by new development and residents kicked out. A story many know all too well, and one leaders with One MEC, Action NC, and the redress movement say can only be tackled starting at the top.
The problem has always been the city saying they don't have in their tool belt what they need to hold landlords accountable.
Now, in a letter to the city, some of what they're recommending is that urgent repairs be addressed by landlords within 48 hours, for the city to make AC a requirement, and they're asking for stricter policies when it comes to addressing mold. Just a few problems they say many landlords drag out.
At any time that the landlord is tired of it, they'll just sell it off to somebody else for a profit, and that person will say, oh, I wasn't aware of this. I need time to fix this. And the people that are hurting are the tenants.
He says without the city stepping in, there's nothing in place to stop this ongoing issue.
So it's just a repetitive process that if you are low income in Charlotte, there aren't protections to protect you from greedy landlords. And that's our purpose of these recommendations.
And Action NC says they hope to come up with a solution where the city is stepping in by March. Live here in Charlotte, Anna King, WCNC Charlotte.
Thanks so much for that update, Anna.
All right, let's get another check of your forecast right now with meteorologist Chris Mulcahy. Chris, going to be a wet evening, but then after that, after we get through that, things aren't bad.
Yeah, we have several days that it's going to be dry. It's also going to be back at 70 plus again, so that's a nice little treat. But right now we're dealing with breezy conditions. It's cloudy. So if you focus in on the temperature, you're like, wow, upper 60s, around 70. But if you factor in how it feels and the rain that's coming, today isn't the greatest of all the days that I'm going to show you on the Guy Roofing. Now, not bad. It's better than 27 degrees for a high that we had not too long ago. But those wind gusts are getting up to about 20 to 25 miles per hour on and off as we work our way through the afternoon before that front wedges through. Also, the leading edge of these line of showers and or thunderstorms even could provide some gusty winds. And then once you head into the early morning hours, the winds are still going to be strongest in the mountains. We always see this, but still pretty breezy heading into tomorrow. That's going to help subdue a little bit of that fog. But the winds are always the biggest driving force whenever it's dry for the local fire danger, and that's why it's a very high for counties of concern near that fire just northeast of McDowell County. That's Burke, Caldwell, and Alexander County. The rest of the area, including Charlotte, under a high. So even though we are seeing rain, it doesn't come early enough in the day that we wouldn't warrant this. But since that rain is moving through, it will allow for some improvements. Just a moderate fire danger, still decently breezy for tomorrow, and then still high for the counties of concern. And it's the ones Burke, McDowell, Yancey, and Mitchell, as I mentioned, under that code orange, so just unhealthy for sensitive groups. Check out what's going on here. You have this little bend here. This is classic cold air damming, where if you're southeast of this line, that's where you have some of the warmer temperatures. And that's why we're looking at a big difference from northwest to southeast. And cloud cover is also a factor here too. We have highs in the mid 50s. It's always cooler in the mountains. The lower to mid 60s across the foothills. Charlotte, you're going to be right around 60 degrees. I think you can range anywhere from 67 to 70 degrees through this stretch. But pretty much south and southeast of Charlotte, 70 to 76 is the temperature range. And that's all the influence of that warm front that's going to be locking in that moisture. So we didn't have any rain this morning. We won't really have the rain in the afternoon. It's really this evening that is the best time that you want to have the umbrella. And here, I'll prove it to you. From 2 to 4 o'clock is where you first need the umbrella for the mountains, but that was for the Charlotte area. It really isn't until after 5 o'clock, and the sun sets a little bit closer to 6 o'clock now this time of the season. 5 to 8, is where that rain takes over, and this leading edge could provide some gusty winds. You could hear a rumble of thunder, also some decently heavy rain with this as well. It could even be a couple of spurts of torrential downpours, and we're going to keep a rain around for much of the evening. It's really not until about 10 to midnight we clear from Charlotte, and by about midnight to 2, it should be clearing fully from the area, and then we'll have a mix of cloud and sunshine for your Saturday. Tonight, because of the cloud cover, we're still only going to be dropping down into the mid-40s, so another mild night and a nice start to February. Can you believe it? We're starting a new month tomorrow. 63 degrees for the first day of the new month, and then the mid-50s, cooler for February 2nd, aka Groundhog Day. Our precipitation chances going forward, a lot of uncertainty. I think one of these days will spike up to a likely possibility. There's just too much disagreement for the long range, but it looks like the end of next week is going to be your next chance for widespread rain, much like what we're seeing this evening. So our Guy Roofing 7-day forecast, this is only a slight downturn. We have the 50s on Sunday, but check it out. My pick of the week for next week looks to be Tuesday, the mid-70s, and next Thursday we could do it again. So we are trending in a warmer direction, Ben.
New tonight, a WCNC Charlotte investigation found the justice system failed to protect a Charlotte mother.
Because it was preventable.
It's all. I cry every day for my child. She just ain't coming back.
During his investigation, our Nate Morabito uncovered a series of decisions and delays across state lines that allowed a fugitive to walk free. And now she's charged with murder. As a warning, you are about to hear 911 calls that are difficult to listen to.
She was a good girl.
LaShonda McClendon.
Her personality brought everybody close.
Treated her phone.
She was just always there to comfort you.
Like a lifeline, a way of staying connected to her family. When she'd call, her kids would listen.
My last phone call was on Wednesday with her.
On December 13th, McClendon's calls ended forever.
This girl just actually pulled the gun out on me and pointed it in my face.
But not before she first dialed 911 to report Ebony Rahman, an acquaintance she says threatened her life. Around 7:30 that morning,
she needs to be going to jail.
Charlotte-Mecklenburg police responded to her plea for help. The responding officer took Rahman into custody, but not to charge her with any crime connected to the threat. Instead, when he ran her name through the National Crime Information Center database, he noticed Rahman was wanted by the York County Sheriff's Office, connected to shoplifting and criminal conspiracy charges from June.
She had an extraditable warrant out of South Carolina, took her downtown.
He drove the fugitive to jail, but then the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office turned her away. The officer returned Rahman to the scene. Less than 3 hours after McClendon called 911,
she's bleeding.
3 more people called dispatch.
She just shot and then drove off.
All as the 42-year-old begged for help.
Please come. Please come on, please come on, please come on, please.
Yes, no. You okay?
Her mother received the call every parent dreads.
I cry every day for my child. She just ain't coming back, but I got her right here, though, in my heart, right here.
McClendon's family,
because it was preventable,
is now second-guessing every decision leading up to that moment.
Yeah, they let my mom down.
It seems like a failure.
Criminal defense attorney Tim Emery says this case is as shocking as it is sad.
It suggests that our systems are not effective and efficient at keeping us safe.
WCNC Charlotte's investigation found the lack of a single signature and the addition of one word allowed Rahman to avoid jail that morning. Turns out CMPD first served Rahman with her fugitive charges out of South Carolina in July, after they picked her up on a probation violation. That began a drawn-out process to secure a governor's warrant to bring her back to South Carolina. 90 days passed with no warrant, so prosecutors, as the law allows, dismissed the charge. Records show the York County Sheriff's Office didn't fill out the formal paperwork until late October. It then took more than a month to get the needed signatures in South Carolina before North Carolina officials could approve. Rahman, meanwhile, walked out of jail in November. Still wanted, but free for the time being. That brings us back to the morning of December 13th. The Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office knew a governor's warrant was almost ready, but the agency says it could not hold Rahman because then Governor Roy Cooper hadn't signed it yet. He signed the paper 3 days later. That leads to the other issue.
I've never had a client who has been taken to the jail with an out-of-state warrant and then they just say, no, you're good to go. I've never seen that.
Mecklenburg County says the agency couldn't rearrest the woman on her outstanding fugitive charges in this instance because of the way she was labeled in NCIC after her July arrest.
It's like we really lost a best friend and a mom.
LaShunda McClendon's family is now paying the price. Their mom's voice silenced, but using theirs to make a call of their own.
I pray that the police system don't let her know.
Yeah, come on in. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to be here with so many people who are committed to helping Western North Carolina get back on its feet. I want to thank the Boone Area Chamber of Commerce for hosting us and for serving the business community for 75 years at this point. I'm here to announce a public-private partnership that will help address the urgent needs of small businesses in Western North Carolina as they fight to make it through the winter successfully. Western North Carolina's economy has suffered a tremendous setback since Hurricane Helene swept through the region. If these small local businesses can make it through the winter, I'm confident that they have a good chance of coming back stronger than ever in the next tourism season. But we need to support them through this uncertain time. I'm joined today by Dr. Susan Mims somewhere. Where is she hiding? Right behind me. Who is the CEO of the Dogwood Health Trust. For the past couple of months, Dogwood has been supporting local small businesses in Western North Carolina suffering either physical or economic damage from the storm, get through a program that's called the Western North Carolina Small Business Grant Program. It has successfully delivered desperately needed grants to keep small businesses afloat, administered by the Appalachian Community Capital, which is a community development financial institution partner with Dogwood. I want to thank Dogwood for its generosity and its initiative for prioritizing a community need that was clear to all. Unfortunately, the initial round of grants that they put forward have been exhausted. The demand was much greater than the amount of money that was available in round one. That's why I am excited to announce that the state of North Carolina will be putting up $20 million, and Dogwood Trust is going to be adding another $10 million for a new pool of small business grants of $30 million. Again, it's all about helping small businesses that need a boost during this slow time of business year and who suffered from Hurricane Helene. We also hope that other foundations join Dogwood and the state of North Carolina in this initiative. The grants will be for eligible small businesses with revenues not exceeding $2.5 million that are in one of 30 counties in Western North Carolina, as well as including the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. If you are a small business in one of these affected counties and you suffered due to a lien, please apply for assistance. The portal on the Appalachian Community Capital website is online now. I'm proud to be announcing this investment from our state and philanthropic partners because when our small businesses thrive, we all thrive. I've met with many small business owners on my trips out west in recent weeks and months. Amy Davis and her family provided tens of thousands of meals to hungry McDowell County neighbors from their country store and cafe in Old Fort. Ashley Gallagher here in Watauga County turned her indoor skate park into a distribution center for food, clothing, water, heaters, building supplies so that she could help her neighbors. And I don't want to steal Renata's thunder. Where's Renata? But she has a powerful, touching story to share as well today. These small businesses are the beating hearts of our communities. As I visited these folks, they underscore how committed they are to supporting their communities and keeping their businesses in Western North Carolina if they can just make it. Just like they have stepped up for their neighbors, we must step up for them. I'm proud of today's announcement, and shortly Dogwood will talk about its contribution to this effort. But let me say first that more will be needed. Today's $30 million is a positive step, but it is nowhere near enough to meet the needs of Western North Carolina small businesses. I've asked the federal government for increased investment. Next week, I will be asking the General Assembly here in Raleigh to appropriate funds that will urgently support the businesses across Western North Carolina, as well as housing and infrastructure. And we need more philanthropies to step up and join this partnership. If you are a foundation or a financial institution, and you are ready to join our effort in strengthening Western North Carolina by investing in the Western North Carolina Small Business Grant Program, please reach out. We will embrace your contribution. Before I close, I want to share another positive announcement for Western North Carolina. Over Martin Luther King weekend, I was in Western North Carolina. In fact, I had the entire cabinet, all 13 members of my cabinet in various counties across Western North Carolina doing volunteer work just so they can get grounded with what the west of the state is facing. I had the pleasure of joining Baptist on Mission in Spruce Pine, where they were helping Barbara and her family rebuild their family home. The flooding had come about 4 or 5 feet in the first floor, had to take out all of the sheetrock, everything, the flooring on the whole first floor. By the time I had gotten there, a lot of work had been done over the previous weeks. As we installed insulation and drywall that day, Barbara could begin to see her home taking shape. I also got to tour Baptist on Mission's rebuild site in Spruce Pine, one of 7 sites they have set up across the state of North Carolina. The one in Spruce Pine is going to be able to house 200 volunteers at any given time, people who come in from across the country, as well as North Carolina, to just go hammer a nail and help people who need to get their home fixed. Their plan, Baptist on Mission's plan, is to stay here for as many years as it takes to help the people of West North Carolina rebuild. They are among the unsung heroes here out west, and I think we need to help them keep doing what they're doing, and we need to support their efforts. That's why I'm announcing a $3 million grant to Baptist on Mission to continue their emergency rapid repair projects. The money will help them purchase building materials that their volunteers can then install to help homeowners get back into their properties as quickly as possible and in safe, habitable condition. Another organization that is doing similarly impactful work is Habitat for Humanity. So we are also announcing a $3 million grant to Habitat to support its repair work. They're currently supporting 178 separate home repair projects ranging from siding on a house or a roof replacement across 11 Western North Carolina affiliates. By working together, we can repair and rebuild homes so that they are safe and habitable for their residents. Richard and Marlo, who are here representing their organizations, thank you both. Whether you are a local government, a philanthropy, a corporation, a nonprofit, or just a person in your community, there is a role for you to play in helping Western North Carolina come back. And by each of us doing our part, we will rebuild Western North Carolina safer and stronger than ever before. Thank you all, and I will now turn it over to Dr. Susan Mims with Dogwood Health Trust.
Thank you, Governor Stein, and good afternoon to everyone who is participating today. I am grateful to be here representing Dogwood Health Trust. a private foundation focused on improving the health and well-being of all people and communities in western North Carolina's 18 far western counties and the Quella boundary of the eastern band of the Cherokee. And I am joined here today by the Secretary of our Board of Directors, Mr. Casey Cooper. Thanks for being with us, Casey. With the devastation left by Hurricane Helene, today's announcement by the state of North Carolina is more important than ever to the vitality of our region. Following the storm, we saw so many businesses suffering and struggling. Dogwood worked with Appalachian Community Capital to create the Western North Carolina Small Business Initiative last October as part of our larger Hurricane Helene relief efforts and prioritizing helping the very small businesses that were most physically and economically impacted by the storm. And we received nearly 3,000 applications in just 4 weeks. Roughly 1,000 small businesses in Western North Carolina have received grants of up to $25,000 from Dogwood's initial $20 million investment. Earlier this month, we received a thank you note from a photographer and gallery owner named Karen Moggins, who received one of our grants. Her business was located in the River Arts District in Asheville. The day before the storm, she grabbed whatever she could fit from her gallery into her car. And when she returned 10 days later, everything was gone and completely devastated. Karen was about to give up and move on before she got the grant. But with it, she was able to resume her payroll, rebuild some of what she lost, and replace inventory, found a temporary location to sell her work, and now is thinking about how she's going to go about opening a space of her own again. It's stories like Karen's and today's announcement by the state of North Carolina that have inspired Dogwood to announce and invest another $10 million into the Western North Carolina Small Business Initiative. We believe that expanding this initiative will help to ensure the health of our region by strengthening the economy and making it possible for neighbors to remain employed and support their families. Each small business that receives a grant employs the people who create the vitality of our communities. And the next phase of the Western North Carolina Small Business Initiative broadens the criteria to businesses that employ even more people. We are grateful to the Appalachian Community Capital for managing this initiative. And we are also proud to expand and support alongside the state of North Carolina. And we hope that more of our philanthropic peers and others will consider contributing to this very important effort as well. And while Dogwood's support for small businesses has been a notable part of our response to Hurricane Helene, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the many other not-for-profits, grantee, and community partners who play such an important role in the region's response from this devastating storm. Dogwood Health Trust remains committed to our region, and we will continue to be part of Western North Carolina's recovery and rebuilding in the years ahead. So thank you for allowing us to be here today. And now I have the honor to pass this over to Renata Dos Santos with River Girl Fishing Company. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Renata Dos Santos, and I'm the co-owner of River Girl Fishing Company in Todd. My wife, Kelly, the original River Girl, founded the business 20 years ago. She's passionate about fly fishing and educating people on anything outdoor or nature related. The business started with just guided fly fishing, and then after many requests, she branched out with 2 kayaks. Over time, we invested in more kayaks, tubes, canoes, bicycles, and ecotourism opportunities. We've always been committed to our environment and the river as it is our home. So much so that Kelly started Trashy Tuesdays, where on the first Tuesday of each month, folks float for free in exchange for cleaning up the South Fork of the New River. Over River Girl's 20 years in business, we've never asked for a loan, and we've worked hard to invest in both our business and the Ashen-Watauga County communities. Then last September happened. After the worst of the storm had passed, we received a call from a friend. "You've got to come down, the building is gone." Our storage building had been lifted in the air and twisted. All of our boats, tubes, bicycles, and tubes were making their way to Virginia. Like everyone else, we never imagined that we'd find ourselves in this situation. But for the first time, we've had to consider if taking a loan on the business was a viable option given the financial challenges ahead. In Western North Carolina, we have a resiliency, a perseverance, the mountain can-do attitude. We support our neighbors, and like the river, we go with the flow. For the 3 weeks after Hurricane Helene, Kelly and I turned our business property into a relief center, and we called it Command Central. We rescued people and animals, helped folks get news of their missing loved ones, coordinated relief efforts via road and bridge repair, property and river cleanup, pulled vehicles out of the river, cleared high water bridges that had become dams clogged with debris, provided access to heavy equipment, donated culverts, distributed food, fuel, generators, general supplies, did wellness checks, became a trash and recycling site for Todd and Fleetwood, sent aid to surrounding towns, you name it, we did it. And after 3 weeks, we were able to divert people's need to more permanent or established resources. Our point is, like the mountain, we are strong. We adapt to change, and we will do everything we can to help others. But to make it through the next tourism season, our small businesses are going to need help. Like us, many are hesitant to take on additional debt via loans. We are a seasonal business, and normally funds made through the on-season serve as our sustenance during the off-season. Many, like us, accumulate resources over the years, and it is challenging, to say the least, to rebuild 20 years' worth of our livelihoods in just a few months. And that's why River Girl is proud to stand here in support of this grant program. It recognizes the critical role that our small businesses play in our community, and it recognizes that when we succeed, our whole community succeeds. To be honest, at this point as business owners, we are taking it one day at a time. We are proud of the work we're doing, and this upcoming tourist season will be heavily focused on education and cleanup. And while we are physically back to square one of offering fly fishing and a few kayaks, it is our hope that through grant funding, small businesses like ours will have a fighting chance to survive. And just as much as we focus on our financial footing, we also need to keep an eye on supporting the emotional and mental trauma people have endured. So thank you, Governor Stein, Dogwood Health Trust, and any future partners who are making this program possible. I'll now turn it over to Richard Brunson with Baptist on Mission.
Thank you. Well, we're so honored to be here with the different groups who are here, who are making such a big difference all across Western North Carolina. Thank you so much, Governor Stein. Thank you for the grant. We're so thankful for these funds and for the disaster relief grant that we received from the General Assembly before Helene even hit. We're going to use all these funds to purchase building materials, as you said, Governor, to be used by volunteers to help families get back in their homes. Our goal is 1,000 homes this year. You know, more than half the cost of building is labor. And so when volunteers provide the labor, we can double the impact or even triple the number of families that can get back in their homes. And especially when we have great volunteers like Governor Stein, because I heard from our team that he was one of the best people they had putting up sheetrock. But maybe more important than that, talking to people and encouraging people like Barbara, whose home that the governor was in. So volunteers are providing not just that labor, not just that's so important, but it's that listening ear. It's a smile. It's a prayer. It's encouragement for the family, and they know they're not forgotten. Volunteers are providing hope. So thank you so much for coming to our Rebuild Center sites, along with your cabinet, Governor Stein, and working and giving hope to families affected by Helene. Baptist Disaster Relief volunteers have been working ever since Helene hit. We start out with, we have a lot of mass feeding equipment, and along with our partners with North Carolina Emergency Management and Red Cross and Salvation Army, we were able to provide almost 500,000 hot meals after Helene. Next came chainsaw and tarps on roofs and mud outs and tear outs of homes that had been flooded. And volunteers showed up to tear out flooring and drywall, to stop the spread of mold, and just to give encouragement with conversations and smiles and prayers. And over 5,000 jobs were completed. And now we're in the stage of rebuilds, and we're trying to get as many people back in their homes as possible. Richard and Tammy Weeks are here with me, and they're our site coordinators for all those 7 sites that the governor talked about across western North Carolina. And they told me the story of just one of many homeowners. This particular family is the Carpenter family. And every home on the street where the Carpenter family lives was severely damaged by flooding from Helene. Volunteers were going door to door, and they met the Carpenter family, and it was a unique situation. Mr. Carpenter had some dementia and would not leave the home they were living in. Even though it was completely damaged, it was gutted, all their belongings were piled beside the road. Mr. Carpenter was very anxious, he was struggling. So plans for the work began immediately, and volunteers were called in and hit the ground running, and as work began, Mr. Carpenter started showing signs of calmness, and just in a matter of a few weeks, the family was back to somewhat of a normal life, and the rebuild process was well underway. And volunteers would work, and they would talk to Mr. Carpenter, and they had him smiling and calm. And just a few weeks after that, their home was completed, and the Carpenters were so thankful for their home and for the volunteers. Rebuilding homes and rebuilding lives. The recovery effort in western North Carolina is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. We'll need lots of volunteers to help over the next 4 or 5 years. As the governor described, the Essential Rapid Repair Program, that this is the first phase to get families back in their home. It won't be a completely finished home, but it will provide the basics. Insulation, flooring, sheetrock, the electrical, the plumbing, HVAC, a functional kitchen, appliance, and bathrooms. And then we'll come back later and finish the house. It's our desire to get as many people back into a warm, safe, secure, functional house as soon as possible. It costs approximately $20,000 per home for the building materials. Again, volunteers more than double the value of the work because they're providing their volunteer labor. To help with this effort, we're using lots of, and need even more, licensed plumbers and electricians and people with construction skills, because all this work has to be done to code, working with county building inspectors. But we're also going to need hundreds of other people willing to assist in many ways. People who just want to be Jesus' hands and feet to homeowners. Homeowners like the Carpenters and many, many more. In a disaster, a lot of times I think of a Bible verse. It's Romans 8:28. And Romans 8:28 says, "In all things God works for good." God's a good God. We live in a fallen world and bad things happen, but God's always working for good, and God calls us to work for good. You know, some of our very best volunteers are from western North Carolina. These volunteers have made many, many trips down east after Florence and after Matthew to help those families down east affected by Matthew and Florence get back in their homes. And now some of these very volunteers have lost their homes. And so mountain people are special. And right now they need us. And I'm so thankful that God's giving us the honor of helping them. Thank you, Governor Stein, for all that you're doing to help western North Carolina. I want to introduce the next speaker, Marlo Foster with Habitat.
So it is great to be with you all today. And the great thing about going last is that almost everything has been said. So I'm pulling up the anchor, right? But first of all, on behalf of my board of directors and several affiliate leaders that we have with me from Habitat for Humanity, we'd like to thank you for this $3 million commitment. The governor, sometimes I call him Josh quietly, but he's like, now call me Governor Marlin. I mean, Josh and I have had a long history working together in public policy, and so it's just beautiful to see his commitment to the state and his longevity of serving people. Thank you. You know, the governor mentioned it in his presentation, his opening speech. We are targeting 178 repairs this year. And these dollars will go a long way in helping us get that done. But these affiliate leaders will tell you that what we didn't recognize and what we've learned in the process of doing these repairs is that a lot of them are turning into rebuilds. And you've heard the Baptist on Mission talk about this. We did not realize initially going into these homes what the extent of the damage was going to be. So we are thankful for these funds that can allow us to do our work. I also just want to take the opportunity to thank Dogwood Health Trust. Dogwood Health Trust has been a partner in this work in Western North Carolina. They've given us a grant that they've allowed us to repurpose to focus on our Western affiliates. We've also received money from Hyundai Corporation to do some work in Old Fort, McDowell County, which is actually an area we don't have an affiliate, but we've been able to do work in Old Fort. So we're very excited about that, and we're very thankful for that. The last thing that I will say is that Baptist on Mission has thrown down the gauntlet because apparently the governor is a great drywaller. So we've got our Habitat affiliate leaders here. So we welcome you back to the West and back to a Habitat affiliate. But thank you so much. Thank you, Governor, very much. I'll turn it back over to the governor.
Marlon, thank you. What I'm very good at is taking direction. And the folks with Baptist on Mission, they told me exactly what I needed to do. And I did what I was told. We're happy to take questions, and you can direct them to any of the speakers.
Governor, how will you source that state portion?
It will come from appropriations that the General Assembly has made. And I want to thank the legislature for the investments it has made to date. But we all recognize is there is much more work to be done. This is just about accelerating the work, bringing urgency to this moment, but this work is going to go on for months and in some instances years, and we as a state, we as a nation have to be here for the long haul to help the people of Western North Carolina.
On the federal portion, obviously you met with the president when he visited Western North Carolina. Have you heard back from the White House in terms of their commitment to the state?
Yeah, I've been very grateful. The president came to North Carolina. It was his first visit out of Washington, D.C. after being reinaugurated. And so that was a strong signal. He reassured me that North Carolina would not be forgotten in any subsequent disaster relief bills that Congress passes. Since that, I've talked with the National Security Advisor a couple of times, just had a call yesterday or the day before with the acting administrator of FEMA. They remain focused on making sure that we work together as well as possible to get this relief work done as well as we can.
What factors led to the expansion to additional counties and larger businesses?
A couple of factors, and I'm happy to let Dr. Mims take a turn on this question as well. One is Dogwood Health Trust, by its charter, is limited to 18 counties, and we all know that the affected counties were more than that. So one value of bringing the state in to support this work is it lets us cover all of Western North Carolina that was affected, not just Dogwood's service area. The second thing is the program, as initially went, was incredibly successful. It was oversubscribed. The money has gone out the door, and it has helped businesses that were struggling and in need. And it became apparent that it was essentially a proof point. This is a desperately needed program. And so we were happy to be able to come together to increase the total amount of resources. And we also realized that in the first wave, even though there were a number of businesses with revenues of less than $1 million, that was the original limitation, there were more businesses that needed it in that category than were able to get funded. But there were a lot of businesses in the next size, from $1 million to $2.5 million in revenues, that also needed help. And that was the thinking behind allowing both sets of businesses to be able to apply this time. And I'll see if Dr. Mims wants to add.
I think the governor covered it very well. You know, we start something, we have to start somewhere, and we knew that we could provide this in a circumscribed way and learn as we go. And the more you learn, we heard from so many businesses that were just over the limit. And, you know, their stories are extremely compelling. And so we, as soon as we had that program underway, we started looking for opportunities to actually, you know, increase that limit to a higher revenue level. And I am so pleased with the state of North Carolina's help that we are able to do that and announce this today.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Back to the state portion, what's your sense of where Raleigh stands? How long until we'll see the next package from the legislature, the General Assembly?
We had meetings with the General Assembly this week. There were a couple of hearings, one on the Select Committee in the House on Western North Carolina recovery, and then another one with government operations yesterday on all of disaster relief. And my sense is that there's a great appetite to put forward money when we can show them that that money is making a difference. And I am confident that we are going to be, with programs like this, we're going to be able to show and convince them that this is the right investment that they should make in the people of Western North Carolina.
Politics won't get in the way?
Well, I certainly hope not. I mean, look, here's what I know happened in the weeks and months that followed that storm, is that folks were helping each other. Renata was telling, they turned their lost business into a community resource center to help other folks, even though they lost everything. And I assure you this, they never asked anybody who came and said, I needed a blanket or I needed some food, whether they were a Democrat or Republican, because they're a human being and they were in need. And the people of Western North Carolina are in need, and it does not matter if they're a Democrat, Republican, or unaffiliated voter. It's who they are as a person. They're a North Carolinian, and we have to be able to overcome our political differences to help those folks.
Thank y'all.
Thanks so much. Great to see you. Good job. Oh, thank
Like I got some of them down. Sorry, I had to.